All right, so today we're diving into a really powerful new memoir. It pulls back the curtain on one of America's most influential families. And what it reveals is this multi-generational story of, huge public success, but also some really deep private heartbreak.
So, picture this. It's March 2020, the whole world is basically grinding to a halt. The author, Belle Burden, has escaped with her husband, James, and their 2 daughters to their house on Martha's Vineyard. It's supposed to be this safe little bubble, right? They're making fires, drinking whiskey sours, and just trying to settle into this new quarantine reality.
And then the phone rings. It's an unknown number, so she lets it go to voicemail. A few moments later, she listens to the message, and her entire world just shatters. A man's nervous voice delivers that one single devastating sentence. And just like that, a 20-year marriage completely implodes.
Now, what's so wild about this is the contrast. That evening, March 21st, was almost painfully perfect. I mean, her daughter is making fresh gnocchi from scratch. Her husband is grilling a perfect roast chicken. It's this beautiful picture of family life. But in the background, a phone rings, a message gets left, and that perfect picture is just completely and irrevocably destroyed.
So after she discovers the message, her husband, James, is at first super apologetic. He's promising it meant nothing, that it's all over. But by 6 a.m. the next morning, something has totally flipped. He walks into their bedroom, already fully dressed, holding a tote bag, and just announces he wants a divorce. And then he just walks out. Gone.
This incredibly shocking personal story of betrayal is really just one layer of the memoir. To get the full picture, you kind of have to understand the world he comes from. So who exactly is Belle Burden? Well, it turns out Belle Burden is the daughter of two absolute New York City icons. Her mother is Amanda Burden, the legendary urban planner who literally shaped the city. And her father was Carter Burden, a progressive councilman and, get this, a direct descendant of Cornelius Vanderbilt. So this isn't just a story about a marriage ending, it's a story that's completely steeped in a legacy of power, influence, and a whole lot of public scrutiny.
So to really understand Belle's story, we first have to take a look at the world that made her. The world of her parents, Amanda and Carter Burden, who were a true New York power couple of their time.
Amanda Burden's impact on New York City is, well, it's almost impossible to overstate. As Mayor Bloomberg's planning chief, she was in charge of rezoning nearly 40% of the city. I mean, just let that sink in. Projects you've definitely heard of, the High Line, the transformation of the Brooklyn waterfront, Hudson Yards, that's all part of her legacy. Her whole philosophy was that creating these beautiful, human-focused public spaces wasn't just about looking nice, it was actually a key driver of economic growth.
And her father, Carter Burden, was just as incredible. Here's a guy who's a Vanderbilt heir. He could have done absolutely nothing. Instead, he dove headfirst into public service. As a New York City councilman, he fought for some of the most progressive causes of his day, tackling lead poisoning in kids, fighting for better housing for the elderly, and even introduced some of the earliest gay rights legislation. He really used his privilege to stand up for the vulnerable.
But as it so often goes, the glittering public success of Amanda and Carter Burden was hiding a much more complicated private reality. And this is where the two generational stories start to connect in a really profound way.
Because for all their incredible public achievements, their own marriage didn't make it. They divorced back in 1972, when Belle was just a little kid. So here's the crucial point. The collapse of a marriage is a pattern. It's something that echoes right through this family's history.
And this quote right here gets to the absolute core of the memoir. Belle isn't just writing about her own divorce. She's digging in and examining these unspoken rules that were passed down in her family. This expectation that women should just endure betrayal and pain with a kind of quiet dignity. And so, Belle's memoir, which is called Strangers, becomes way more than just a story about loss. It turns into this powerful narrative of rediscovery and, honestly, a massive personal change.
She writes about this persona she used to have, this character she calls Belle the Good. This was the version of her that was always compliant, always discreet, but the trauma of her husband leaving forces her to finally shed that identity. And the act of writing this memoir, well, that's her way of becoming someone braver, someone who refuses to be silent about her own story anymore.
Ultimately, what starts as this absolutely gut-wrenching story of betrayal becomes one of resilience. It's really about surviving something that feels unimaginable, and in that process, finding a strength and a voice you never, ever knew you had. The pain actually becomes the catalyst for this incredibly powerful transformation.
And so, Belle Burden's story kind of leaves us with this big question for our own lives, right? How much of who we are is defined by the family histories we carry with us, and what does it take to finally break the pattern and write our own ending?